It was just an old food cart on a corner most people hurried past. But for 3 young boys, hollow with hunger, it was a beacon, and for the woman who ran it, a simple, unthinking choice to feed them for free would echo across decades. She never asked for anything in return, but kindness, it seems, has a memory of its own. For over 30 years, Elena's life had followed the same humble rhythm. Her world was her small cart, her recipes passed down from her mother, and the familiar faces of the neighborhood working folk who were her regulars. She was a widow, her own children grown and living far away. What little she earned was just enough, but Elena had a rule whispered to her by her own grandmother long ago. If a hungry person comes to your door, you feed them. You don't ask why, you just give. Her corner was near a park that by night became a refuge for those with nowhere else to go. She often saw families there, shadows in the dusk. And one rainy evening, as she was closing up, she saw 3 figures huddled under a tree. They were young, perhaps 10 years old. Triplets, their identical faces pale with cold and hunger. Their clothes were too thin. They were just watching her silently. Her heart ached. She waved them over. They approached slowly, hesitantly. "Are you hungry?" she asked. The boys nodded, their eyes huge. One of them, the boldest, spoke up. "We have no money, ma'am." Elena didn't hesitate. She wasn't thinking of grand gestures or future rewards. She was simply looking at 3 shivering children. "That's all right," she said softly. "Come, sit." She filled 3 bowls to the brim with hot arroz caldo, the ginger and chicken soup steaming in the cool air. She watched as they ate, not with greed, but with a desperate, focused gratitude that brought tears to her eyes. They didn't speak, but their quiet thank yous afterwards were more profound than any payment.
The next evening, they were there again, and the next. Sometimes they could scrape together a few coins. Most times they couldn't. Elena's rule held firm. She fed them. She learned their names, Mark, Marco, and Marcus. She learned they had lost their mother and their father was searching for work far away. Her cart became their sanctuary. She'd save the extra pieces of chicken, the ends of the bread. She'd ask about their day. One night, Marco, the quietest, looked up at her and said, "Tita Elena, when I grow up, I'm going to have a big car. I'll come back for you." She pouted his head, her smile warm but wistful. "You just focus on growing up strong and good," she told him. "That's all I want."
Then, one day, they stopped coming. She asked around, worried. A neighbor said a relative had finally taken them in, moved them to the city. Elena prayed for them, often. She missed their quiet presence. As years turned into decades, the memory of the 3 hungry boys became a sweet, distant chapter in her long life. The cart grew more weathered. So did she. The morning the cars arrived, Elena was just thinking about her aching knees, about maybe closing the cart for good. The sight was so surreal, she thought her eyes were playing tricks. The men who stepped out were in their prime, successful, radiating confidence. But in their eyes, she saw it, the shape of them, the way the eldest held his shoulders, the shy smile of the one on the left. Time fell away. "Do you remember us, Tita Elena?" Her hand flew to her mouth. The spoon she was holding clattered to the cart. Tears, instant and unbidden, filled her eyes. "Marco? Marcus," she whispered. The one who spoke, Mark nodded, his own composure crumbling. "You fed us. You kept us safe. You never let us pay."
They surrounded her old cart, these men of stature, not with arrogance, but with the reverence of pilgrims at a shrine. Marcus, the once quiet boy, reached into his jacket. He didn't pull out a wallet. He pulled out a small, faded black and white photo, carefully preserved in a plastic sleeve. It was a picture of the 4 of them, taken by a street photographer all those years ago. Elena at her cart, beaming, her arms around 3 skinny, grinning boys. "We carried this every day," Marcus said, his voice rough, "to remember where we came from, to remember the kindness that kept us human." They told her their story, how their uncle had taken them in, how they had worked through school together, how they had started a small business, then a bigger one, supporting each other at every stumble. "We made a promise," Marco said, finally speaking the words he'd held as a boy, "that if we ever had anything, we would find you. We would come back to your cart." But this wasn't just a visit. They had a proposal. They'd bought the small, vacant lot right next to her corner. They weren't there to give her a handout. They were there to build her a proper, clean, safe little eatery. "A place with your name on it, Tita," Mark explained, "where you can cook your recipes without standing in the rain, where we can send everyone we know to taste the food that gave us hope." Elena was trembling, not from age, but from a flood of emotion she couldn't contain. It wasn't about the building or the cars. It was the photo. It was the fact that they remembered.
that her simple, automatic kindness had been a cornerstone in their lives. The construction began the next week. The old cart was retired, placed inside the new bright eatery as a centerpiece. Elena's kitchen opened to a crowd, and in the front, at the best table, sat 3 successful men eating bowls of a rose caldo, laughing like the boys they once were. Elena's rule, passed down from her grandmother, was simple. You feed the hungry. She never did it for a return. She did it because it was right. But this story whispers a beautiful, deeper truth to us all. Kindness is never a solitary act. It is a seed, and you never know how long it will take, or in what magnificent and unexpected way that seed will grow into a forest of gratitude, sheltering you when you need it most. Share this story if you believe that every good deed is written not in ledgers, but in human hearts.